This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio on all our many stations out there. Everybody watching us on the web at KLEANradio.com. We have an awesome show for you tonight. We're our show about addiction recovery. My co-host with the most.
How's it going, Judah?
The great. Oh, you got to let me introduce you first. Andrew Spanswick.
Jerry, I'm stepping on my own position again.
You're also a little under the weather, so
yeah, I got a cold.
It's understandable. But I would like to welcome everybody out there that's new, that's listening. And tonight I actually wanted to talk about something, Andrew, that's very near and dear to my heart. By the way, we have an amazing guest tonight. We'll introduce him in a couple seconds. His name is Craig Shoemaker, one of the funniest comedians, actors, all around funny, serious.
I allowed you to get all of that in.
Yeah, it's going to be your new voicemail.
I'll give you even more.
It's like, just continue.
Yeah, it's his voicemail message.
Read my bio, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is growing up, Andrew. Every week there was a certain TV show on, Wise Guy, and it was on CBS every Wednesday night. I had to be in front of my TV to watch this show. So as I started getting older, I didn't like that. I didn't like having to watch to be in front of my TV. I know the VCR was out at that point, but I just didn't like that. And I made a deal that I was never going to get into this stuff again. But I find myself recently, on Netflix, binging, and there's been stories about this, about, watching series at a whole time. It could be 8 seasons.
Yeah, their stock went up like 124% in like the last 6 months just because people are binge watching TV.
Yeah, and
you're binging on Ken Wall?
I know, not anymore.
Wise Guy.
That was actually when I was younger.
Yeah, that would hit I'd hit a bottom on that one.
That's a whole other story. But I don't think I'm alone in this. That I think there are a lot of people out there. If you look at the Walking Dead premiere, 16 million people watched it. If you look at last season, 11 million people watched the final. That means 5 million people over the summer
binge-watched
The Walking Dead. Yeah. I have a friend, a good friend, working actor, that literally his days became nights because he was binging on TV shows.
Yeah, I just did Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
They had a marathon.
You were on it, or you?
No, I wasn't. I guess that would be the case with some actors that you would have.
Right.
Actually, I was binging on it because I wanted to catch up with everyone else.
So
that's the problem, is you hear about something that's trending,
right?
Or you'll see it on Twitter, it's trending, and then you go, hey, wait a minute. I've already been out of it my whole life. I have to catch up here.
Right.
So I did a marathon. So I'm up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning watching this Breaking Bad.
Like just one more.
I felt like I was on meth at one point.
And by the way, how did you feel after? Because I got done watching The Office. It was a great show. And afterwards, I was a little depressed that I wasn't going to see any more Offices.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I spread it out. I still haven't seen the finale, so don't tell me what happens.
I haven't seen it either. Andrew has, but he won't ruin it. But let's just welcome our guest right away into the show tonight. It's Craig Shoemaker.
Yeah.
Welcome, Craig.
Thank you.
And you've just been, you've been in everything, but you have some of the funniest, Comedy Central ranked you. I think your stand-up stuff 20th of all time.
Yeah, some people voted for that, and I've got all these awards and stuff like that. But you know what? They're meaningless. They're just jogging weights. I'm serious. It's amazing to me all the times. I'm growing up in Philadelphia. I just had all these certain dreams, and then now that they're achieved, it's like, what's the next one? It's an odd thing.
Well,
I had unusual goals.
It should be about the work, not the.
It's
rule.
about being in the moment,
right?
And which is a lot about what your show. Yeah. When you boil it down, it's about being in the moment and not, into the future. It also has to do with binging or whatever you're talking about. It's
or living in the past.
Living in the past, living in the future. And when I was a kid, I was such a dreamer. I really odd dreams. I dreamt that I didn't have a dad, and my dad left when I was born. Something I said, wah, and he was off. And I had weird dreams because my mom was always unhappy, so we would watch Hollywood Squares. And she loved Paul Lynde, so I wrote him 2 letters to fix him up with my mother, because I read an article that he was single, and I was a kid. I had no idea why he was single. I thought he was happy. Hello. One time on Hollywood Squares, I said, Paul, how many balls on a billiard table? I don't know. How many guys are playing? I mean, who knew? The ascot might have been a giveaway. He wasn't going to write me back. But eventually that goal did come true. I used to think we would be the first father and son team on the Hollywood Square, and I became obsessed. I wanted to be the first. I'd like Craig and Paul Lynde for the win, and we'd be sharing the box like Waylon and Madam. Take this one, son. It's a sports question. I give him all the musical questions, but I ended up on Hollywood Squares, so my dream did come true.
But you
He
were
never
on
wrote
with
me back.
Paul Lynn.
He died, and I was on with the Whoopi. Whoopi used to let me visit the center, though. I was all the other squares. I was Waylon and Madam and Rosemary. I was in all those other squares, Jan Murray, the Block. The only problem is I'm not a big celebrity, and Craig Shoemaker, so for some reason people want to call me Mocker, like I have an umlaut off the boat from Bavaria. So I don't know what it is. They would never call on me unless they needed me. One time I'm looking at the monitor, I'm the only way they go. She's like, I'll take Patrick Swayze to lose. Anything would say Craig Shoemaker. I won someone in a car, though, which was really cool. I won someone a car, and I actually run into her at
Was that stuff fixed, though? I mean, they told you to lie or not, right?
No.
Really?
You get to...
You're actually supposed to really give your best answer?
You can do whatever you want to do.
Oh, you
but
can do
I'm
whatever
so
you want.
codependent
Right.
that I want them all to win.
Yeah, right.
So I go, I'm practically going, I'm bluffing here. I'm practically saying that. I'm winking. They're like,
By the way,
Twitch.
if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. We have a great guest in the studio tonight, Craig Shoemaker, and you're hysterical. But one of the things I want to talk to people out there is two things, actually, because you touched on one thing, but compulsion. And a lot of people out there that are listening, it's one of those very weird things because it's sort of embarrassing to admit out loud. Like you, we were joking that I was addicted to Wise Guy. That was where I fantasized. I wanted to be in the mob, or protect fake mob. And I think
the
as a
Jewish
kid,
mafia was huge in Brooklyn.
not when I was growing up, but I think it's something that a lot of us do fantasize about. I think that's the common trait sometimes with people that are going through problems is they see TV. I always think TV is great because it was a good salvation for somebody like me.
It was a salvation, and now it's turning into not a salvation. It's turning into a bad example. I mean, I have children. Everything I think about now, I think about my children, about what they are going to garner from the menu that they're eating from.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's always been bad TV, right? I mean, there was Jack Prine way back in the day, and then Robert Downey Jr. type of shows, and now it's all become like that.
Morton Downey.
Morton Downey. Robert Downey Jr. Right?
I'm thinking, I never saw Robert.
Although
Downey
him on
Jr.
the news wasn't necessarily good a few years back.
So give us I certainly do remember him in the tabloids, but I never remember having a show.
I like that he figured it out right away. That Craig's been watching TV.
Welcome to Iron Man, the reality series.
So give us a call if you're facing any of these things, because it can be compulsion leads into isolation, and when you get into isolation, it's one of those things that's embarrassing sometimes to say. Andrew, I'm lucky we talk about this stuff and we joke about this stuff, but how many people out there, like I said, my friend, that his day turned into night, are going through these things? And the number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Let's get to Todd in Oregon. He's giving us an update on how he's doing. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Todd.
Hi. I was going to talk to you about how I qualified for a seat in co-occurring disorders.
Okay. I don't, Andrew, what is a co-occurring disorder?
It's a mental illness, or Axis 1 and Axis 4, I think.
Axis 3.
Or Axis 3.
Or Axis 2. It depends. It can be any of them. So
like alcoholism and mental illness combined.
Right. We also call that dual diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a new term up here. I'm in the state hospital, and they call it co-occurring disorder.
Right. So you're in a medical model facility where they're actually discussing your psychiatric issue along with your substance abuse issue. They're actually now combining them into one. The DSM-5, which describes psychiatric disorders, now finally has addiction in it. So.
Yeah. So at age 17, I was full-blown alcoholic. My drug of choice was light beer. Age 21 and 22, experienced an extreme compulsion for a lot of sleep.
So you're bipolar?
Yeah. 1994, I was turned on to crank, my new drug of choice. 6 months window of binge crank use. I used propanol dope and anhydrous ammonia with lithium battery stuff in it.
Wow.
And March 1995, age 22, full-blown psychosis. Mm-hmm. And interacted with the radio. World champion bull rider helped my dad admit me to a 21-day inpatient treatment facility. Then destroyed the treatment, medicated my psychosis with Maloril, which I guess has a black box warning that could give you a heart attack.
Yeah, well, Mellaril is antipsychotic. I mean, you know what you're dealing with is a primary mental health issue of a mood disorder, and you've been self-medicating with various other drugs that you've been able to get or substances, just trying to get better and feel better, without addressing the underlying mental health issue properly with medications that, while not perfect, at least are the best we have right now for treating the mental disorder that you have, and which we can unfortunately cure.
Yeah.
So what's going on right now, Todd? You're in a facility up in Washington?
No, Oregon
I'm
State
sorry.
Hospital, where they filmed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is that sink still there that the chief threw through the window?
the window
Still in the
they
yard.
left broken.
Yeah, they have the only mental health museum in the nation, I think.
Wow.
It's a whole.
That and
they got a
Scientology.
I was going to say, are you sure it's still open?
whole corner of the exhibit is for the Cuckoo's Nest film.
Wow.
And-
So what's going on with you now? Are you doing well? Are you doing better?
Yeah, I'm doing really good.
That's good to hear.
yeah.
I write poetry when I get really pissed off,
Uh-huh.
and I take my meds as prescribed.
Well, that's the most important
Yeah.
thing. The number one problem we have with people that have mental health disorders is they start feeling a little better, or they get a little lazy with the fact that they're better or doing okay, or they want to feel something a little different, and they go off their medication. And then everything starts all over again. So, I'm really glad to hear you're doing well, and stay on your meds and check in with us again.
Yeah, please, Todd, call back anytime.
Okay, have a great evening.
Thank
too,
you, Todd.
Bye.
I wanted to ask you something about, I really do have a wonderful life, and it's turned around.
Right.
And most of it has to do with, higher source, that I, tap into a higher source. And one of the things that I have noticed or come up with in all of this is he had a lot of labeling of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we're allowing doctors to give us those labels. We're
Mm-hmm.
empowering them instead of a higher power to give us those labels. And in the world of law of attraction, hence it becomes true. Is there anything to be said about that?
I mean, I think that's maybe more true in like the worried well sort of segment of our population, where a lot of people will take a minor normal level of depression and a regular MD might treat them with antidepressants.
It's like a lot of kids have autism now.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
these are
you see what I'm saying?
diagnosable illnesses.
You see what I'm saying? Well, yeah, they're all diagnosable. But so, what is the case? I mean, what do you think the percentage of cases of being misdiagnosed, or maybe even not misdiagnosed with any bad intention?
The question actually is really the answer is really the question is interesting, and the answer is even more bizarre. The truth of the matter is that we're actually very good at diagnosing people now, much better than we ever have been in the past.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I mean,
why do you believe that?
Just because of the research that's been done and our understanding.
Research by who?
By psychiatrists and neurologists.
But they're the ones that would want that to be true.
Well, no, they're the ones that.
saying?
No, why would you think that the
Because
neurologists
they make
or
more money
psychologists?
if they.
They make plenty of money without
If
having.
they prescribe drugs, then they obviously
they would make much more money if they could cure the illnesses. I'm sure most people. I can't imagine that every psychiatrist and neurologist is in on
a lot
some
of doctors
scam
saying
to
you should go
figure out how to keep people mentally ill.
I just don't see a lot of doctors saying you should find a spiritual answer. To me, that's been the answer to everything.
That's not the role of a doctor.
I understand that, but the role of the doctor is what? To give them more medicine.
No, the role of the doctor is to diagnose what's going on with them and to continue to find treatments and look for answers. I
just think we're empowering. I think we're empowering.
You know what? I think if you actually went to a psychiatric hospital, like an acute care psychiatric hospital,
like where this guy Todd is.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in one for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
Or several over 5 years, and you really do see the difference between people that are really mentally ill and people that are not. And that's why I spent so much time working on them in the beginning of my career. Was I really wanted to see what was really, abnormal psychology and what was just sort of people that are confused and worried or having problems that can be dealt with in other ways.
But I think more of what you're talking about is with, let's say, things like ADD, because we are prescribing.
I'm talking about a lot of things.
But
I think it's really happened that we are in a very, very prescription drug oriented culture. And we're not in a spiritual culture.
I agree with you.
I believe
we're in a culture that believes
I know personally that I come from some major stuff. I mean, some major pain and some mental issues and so on. And a lot of difficulty. I was kidnapped, molested. I mean, there's a lot of really tough things that I went through. The only thing that ever got me out of it was not any diagnosis from a doctor. It was a self-diagnosis to understand that I have to hit a bottom on this.
Right. But
what's going to help me out of it.
But here's the thing, Craig. We totally get what you're saying, and it should be the last option. So,
medication should be the last option, and a good psychiatrist knows that.
And it's actually, it's one of the things we're very big on with this show. Dr. Coe, who works at KLEAN, the last thing he ever wants to do is give people meds, because he wants to go through therapy first, through all these things, and almost be the last option. And
I believe I'm being honest here. I don't want to be the argumentative one, but I really have my experience in the world of recovery, which has been many, many years, is that not enough people look at if you're, let's say for instance, it's 12 steps. 7 out of the 12 steps deal with some sort of higher consciousness, higher power, God, whatever you want to deem it to be. 7 out of the 12 steps means it's the most important thing. And yet, very rarely do you find any therapist that's dealing with you thinks that that's the most important thing. So if that is the solution, which if in the 12 steps it is, and for many other people it is, if find religion or whatever.
I think it's the solution for some people. And we know that statistically that only a small portion of people actually get and stay sober from the 12 steps. And there's a lot of people that have much more complex psychological issues than just addiction. There's a lot of people that have real serious mental illnesses as well.
And what will help them with that?
So you have to be able to control that mental illness so that they can also function, and therefore not be forced into this compulsive disorder of addiction then as well, where they're trying to treat their own mood or their own thought disorder. I mean, this guy was obviously hearing things coming out of the radio, Todd, and he obviously was diagnosed a long time ago. So it's a progressive chronic disease.
And there's a lot of examples of it, and it's just, I think it gets affirmed and confirmed instead of trying alternative routes. I think that now we're just so
I disagree with you there again too. Everybody's trying tons of alternative routes.
No, I'm talking about the alternative route of spirituality. I'm talking about laughter. I have a laughter movement going right now, and I got to tell you, the results are amazing. I do guided laughidation. You know what it does? It oxygenates your body, healing endorphins release, stress relief. People don't talk about this. This absolutely never an option.
You couldn't sit in a room with schizophrenics and get the same result.
It's never, ever an option.
But
you've never seen anybody.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We're having a very hot topic going on tonight. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with the awesomely talented Craig Shoemaker. You could put that on your voicemail.
Those talents right now.
But here's the thing, and why
I got a lot of bits about this.
Craig, I'm sober through the 12 steps, and I'm a big advocate for the 12 steps. Saved my life. But at a certain point, for some people, they need something else, and it really does talk about that.
And that's what I just said, spirituality.
But Bill Wilson talks about that, that this might not be enough. Some of you might need to go seek outside help.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. The problem is, you're right. Sometimes people do get misdiagnosed and all that jazz. But are we willing to take the risks sometimes of telling somebody that comedy's great, laughing's great, all these things are great because it bring you to a spiritual plane. But how do we know? It's not worth the risk sometimes. It's like, okay, go to the comedy show.
Same with drugs. How do you know?
Right. But so you...
How do you know?
But
I mean, the pharmaceutical companies certainly...
This is why I think that there's a real need for more mental health awareness. The fact that you actually don't really have an understanding of how many millions of people are out there that have chronic, serious mental illnesses where they're unable to function.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Seriously? You don't think that I know that?
Well, I don't think you'd be arguing your point the way you are if you didn't believe that there was necessary. It was necessary
I'm
to
not
treat,
talking about. I'm not talking about
millions of people that have either schizophrenia
I'm talking about,
or
first of all, how
major
they're
mood
defined.
disorder.
How they're defined. Many times you're empowering a doctor that might not be that qualified. That's first of all. Second of all doctors, almost no doctor will send you to a spiritual solution, and I guarantee you that's the case. And how do you know that, by the way, that would not be a risk if you took that risk?
No. It would be
if you got addicted to spirituality, it'd be a hell of an addiction.
No. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, at the same time you're saying to go to a comedy show, get checked out first. And not just by one psychiatrist.
I'm talking about an all-encompassing thing. Well, how about diet? How about natural remedies and diet?
Yeah, there's a huge holistic movement, within the medical field, to include all spirituality, and other areas of your life and the whole bit. I mean, all these things are being integrated in.
But you're calling it the whole bit. I mean, this is very, very.
No,
if you looked at other countries, that's how they do it.
Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing
and they're not
with
addicted
you.
to the things that we're addicted to. So why is that?
That's not really true.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
they don't even have access to them.
I was in Britain. They have methadone maintenance
I'm not talking about Britain.
Okay, so where are you talking about?
I'm talking about Bhutan and place. I'm talking about all over the world. You can go to other places that just don't even have access to what we have access to. So why couldn't we study how they go about it? What are their alternatives?
People get killed. They're stoned to death. The mentally ill are chased away from societies. They're alienated. They're
in that TV show.
They're ostracized. I mean, it's the plight of the mentally has been a horrific story since the beginning of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back through the Middle Ages where they were tortured
and plus you got to remember,
they had demons inside them and all sorts of
correct. But people
still got that going on. In religions now.
Yeah.
Talk about spirituality, but a lot of the major religions are out there talking about how crazy people are possessed by demons.
But they're not spiritual.
Okay, apparently, by the way,
I'm saying there's a lot of ignorance out there,
guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean, whatever
calls.
we're talking about is touching on people. But here's the thing, Craig, and I think
look at all these calls.
What's amazing is
normally get this many
and the
calls.
whole purpose for this show, really, when Andrew and I started, was to have this dialogue. Because and so we're not, like we say, we're not. It's good to have dialogue because. Like I said, for a long time, I had a person that one time said to me in the 12 steps that they wouldn't sponsor me because of a certain reason, right? Now, when you're going through a rough time, and he wasn't a doctor, he was in finance, and I had waited a long time in my sobriety to decide that this might be the other option. But I was scared because this person said that to me. Now, some people, unlike me, could have ran away, said this stuff isn't for me, but thank God that didn't happen. But
that's because the program itself is written perfectly.
Right,
it's written perfectly. There are no loopholes because there are no leaders. They're just trusted servants.
Exactly, but
all of it. There are no sponsors. Even.
Right, but Craig, the thing is, you're a very bright guy, and you're confident, and I know that. Listen, we've all had issues, and sometimes confidence isn't. But you know who you are in a sense, or you've taken a lot of time to know who you are.
Yeah, a lot of process.
A lot of process.
A lot of pain, a lot of...
Right.
Yes.
But how many people don't have your courage? How many people...
Or abilities.
Or abilities, Craig.
And what does that mean?
Some people aren't organized in their thinking.
Right.
They don't have the ability to actually think.
Yeah, I didn't either when I lived on a chair.
Right.
Well...
But Craig,
I lived on stolen pool furniture. I was not thinking straight.
But Craig, you found the right people, you had faith in the process, and you went through it. Not everybody. Sometimes people do get steamrolled.
Well, hold on. That's what I'm trying to say is I found a spiritual solution.
Yes.
Of which I do not see enough of. And even when I'm trying to talk about it now, it seems to be talked down.
Not by me.
Well, no, you guys seem to be going, no, you don't understand. You don't understand psychosis and all this kind of stuff.
I'm
trying to say
that there's a spiritual solution to schizophrenia is just ridiculous.
Craig, I'm huge on
it. Is?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
How do you know that it is?
Because I just know.
Craig, that can never be an answer.
From working in mental health long enough, I know that
I just know.
You look at these people.
Okay, guys,
we got
to take a quick break. You're listening to Clean Radio. Discussion continues at KLEANradio.com. Craig Shoemaker, Andrew Spanswick. We'll get to your phone calls in a second.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits. Now back to Andrew Spanswick and Judah Friedman.
Welcome back for one of the liveliest discussions we've ever had here at KLEAN Radio. We're in the studio tonight with the amazingly talented and very bright, Craig Shoemaker.
I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of beautiful Twitter followers now, and people coming to my comedy show from all the comedy stylings that I've brought forth here.
Hey, some of the best comedy is reality.
Well, not today.
Not today. But, and also Andrew Spencer.
It's a quote-unquote
It's tragedy plus time.
Yeah,
right?
It is a
I haven't
serious
waited
topic.
much time. I came right out of the chute.
It is.
With my opinions.
It is, but you know what? We're happy it did.
It's more than my opinions, though. It really is my experience. I have experiences on many levels of it.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not like
I don't think we
haven't been- it's
really
not like I'm
honestly.
in a
I don't think we
cave
really disagree that much.
praying and
Honestly,
meditating all the
I
time.
just think that what worked for you works for you. There's a lot of
No,
people.
it's not only for me.
I'm just saying what worked for you works for you,
That's
right?
true.
But there's
That one's
there's a
true.
lot of people I know that isn't the only. That wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
There's some people that are out there that
and
are
it's not enough
much
for me
sicker.
either, by the way.
Okay, well,
And, I mean, I mean, how sick was I?
Okay.
Or how sick am I?
I don't really know.
Guys,
Let's
let's
take
get
a call.
some phone calls. Let's go to Elisabeth in Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Elisabeth.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hi,
you
how
doing?
are you?
I'm very good. I just have to say I really enjoy your show.
Oh,
thank
cool.
you.
Thanks.
And Craig, of
Even
course.
today with the pain in the ass, Craig Shoemaker.
Especially today, she seems to have a question.
I have to say that I've had a mom who was diagnosed as bipolar, and I've gone to appointments with her. They want to see her like once a month. The only thing they talk about for about 15 minutes is what medications she's on. They don't offer her any kind of support for what she's been through. She had a really, really rough childhood. And at no point has any doctor tried to treat that. And it's just sad to me. So I kind of identify with what you're saying, that they're so quick to write the prescription and they don't really want to deal with the issue.
That's a whole other topic,
but,
actually.
But wait,
That's a
but
great
this is an
point.
important. I think that that this is so true. And that unfortunately this has been a problem of what's happened with medicine. And I blame the AMA largely for this, in that they've allowed doctors to be minimalized to the point where they only get 15 minutes with a patient because there's so much demand, and yet we have so few doctors, and it's so expensive to see a doctor. So, like in the psychoanalytic movement, where it was really therapy based, and it was talk therapy based, was taken over by brief therapy movements, like Albert Ellis. So they went to just like, how can you quickly just try and fix the symptoms on the top and not really explore the underlying issues that cause the problem? So I think Craig's saying, there is a spiritual solution to looking at these things and figuring these out. I also think there is a therapeutic solution for that as well, and they can both work very well together. I would recommend that you work with a therapist that can spend more time, or find a psychiatrist, if you have the money, unfortunately, that would spend a full hour with your mother at least once a week.
Yeah, and it's sad, too, because she has the insurance. And as far as the spirituality goes, I just wanted to say, too, she's had a lot of struggles with addiction. She's, having bipolar, it's easy to fall into that addictive trap. And she has told me several times, the only reason that I was able to quit smoking or I was able to quit drinking was I said it in front of God. And the only reason, she doesn't to this day know what it's like to take a drink or to smoke a cigarette. And she keeps telling me that, God took that from me. So I'm a huge believer in the spiritual.
It's just to be clear about where I'm coming from is I'm mentioning that as being very, very important. But to me, everything's about the Wizard of Oz. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion. You've got to take care of all three of those.
Yeah.
You got to take care of
Everything
your
has to be
mind
holistic.
and
You
your
can't-
body, which engages a lot of healing properties are engaged. We have a pharmacy within us. That's the thing that I'm also saying is we go very fast to the pharmacy outside of us, that it's with all the lobbyists and things. We have to know that Big Farm has a lot to do with this stuff. They have billions of dollars, but there is no laughter movement, for instance. The spiritual movement is very light. I'm talking about the spiritual. The religious one obviously is very heavy.
Right.
But they don't also, that's a whole other topic in and of itself. Spirituality and religion are two different things. And in the body and the fitness, it's very important to have all three, Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion, all working in alignment.
I'm very pro science. I'm very pro medicine.
That's the mind.
I think that pharmaceutical companies are vilified quite often. The drugs are so much better than they were in the 80s. I'm serious.
Oh, no,
no, it just sounded funny.
No.
Because I got my mom back.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of my-
And that's because of lithium or Depakote or some of these incredible drugs that have come along, and they're just getting better and better over time. You look at the antipsychotics today versus the antipsychotics that first came out in the 1950s, and the difference in what they do to people and how they can improve their lives is dramatic.
Okay, that's Elisabeth. Listen, we have to run, but a little suggestion. I'm almost positive they do have 12-step groups for people that are bipolar, and that might be something interesting with you and your mom. Even taking her to an Al-Anon, one of these type of meetings that you could go and deal with this, so you're not alone.
Yeah, we have a support group for her that she's been going to. I appreciate your guys' time very, very much.
Okay,
And
Elisabeth,
Thanks so
call
much
us
for the
back
call.
anytime and let us know how it's going.
And I hope your mother does well.
Yeah.
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you, Elisabeth. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. That was Elisabeth in Oregon. And that is hard, Andrew. I mean, dealing with a mom and, the doctor sees her for 15 minutes.
Well, and most people don't understand how a lot of these mental illnesses, especially chronic mood disorders that are severe and schizophrenia, are really a family illness. They affect the entire family, and there's a lot of genetic linkage within the family that you have a much higher chance of being schizophrenic or
I'll tell
having
you
a mood
one that
disorder.
nobody talks about: the borderline personality disorder.
Well, there you
That's
go.
the worst.
Yeah, because you know
Be on
why?
the other side of
'Cause
that,
we
that
don't-
is the worst.
It's
Because they're
every-
the last
it's-
person to ever believe they have a problem.
It's everybody from the state of Philadelphia. Anyways, let's
Let's everyone in the studio.
But it is a state of mind also.
let's go to Brooke in Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Brooke. Brooke, are you there?
Brooke, are you there?
Yes.
Hey, how you
Welcome
doing,
to
Brooke?
KLEAN Radio, Brooke.
Hey, what's up? I'm not in Oregon now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It just
I'm in
says,
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh,
cool.
welcome.
Anyway, how are you
You
guys
got to
doing?
turn off your radio, Brooke.
I turned it down.
Atlanta.
Okay.
Craig Shoemaker is playing the Punchline in Atlanta in December, by the way. I'll be bringing
what I
all
was
my drug
calling
humor.
about-
She wanted. Okay.
all right, Brooke, go ahead. What do you got for us?
Okay, so what I was calling in about is, do you feel that when people go into treatment, and then this is for the doctor, I suppose, or for all of you, when you go into treatment, you can get diagnosed too soon that you have a problem when you haven't gotten the drugs out of your system, and you're not completely sane. I myself am recovering heroin. I did everything, but my last drug of choice was heroin. I had been clean for almost 4 years, and I relapsed, and I'm now on day 12, and I feel
That's great.
So I'm kind of wondering, do you feel that people get diagnosed and labeled early when some people just get
Yeah, I
overwhelmed
think
or
it.
when
I
have a
think
buzz?
that. I think that that's true. I think that
Okay, good.
that very few treatment centers and very few psychiatrists and doctors these days take the time or have the time with a client to actually what we call baseline them, which means
Right.
take them off everything you possibly can and see what's left, and then see if you can fix the problems without going to medication.
Right.
So and the reason that we've gotten into this situation is because there's no way that we could possibly. There's something called elasticity of demand, which means that, like, if you were to give out free dental care to people, all of a sudden thousands of people would show up to get cavities filled that right now don't get cavities filled because they don't have the money to go to the dentist. If you were to actually give good mental health treatment, you would be overwhelmed as a society in trying to treat all the people properly. And so, unfortunately, we've got a tiered system in our country of people that have money and that can access $300-400 an hour doctors on a concierge level and be treated properly, and then people that don't have money and get stuck in really terrible facilities and can't get help. And that's one of the things that we really try to do. We take the time to baseline people. We'll hold people longer even after their insurance runs out just to make sure that we can get the proper diagnosis.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, is this at KLEAN? It's a KLEAN
This is a
in West
clean.
Hollywood?
It's
Yeah,
a clean
West
and
Hollywood
Washington
and Oregon.
State.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and the reason we say that is this is thank God we're doing very well. But one of the reasons we do very well is because we don't do that type of stuff, and it's hard. It's really hard now finding a good treatment center, finding an honest psychiatrist like Craig is talking about, because it's one of the most impossible.
KLEAN, I started KLEAN, and the reason that I started KLEAN along with Dr. Coe, who's I've been in business with since '91, we started in New Orleans with acute care psychiatric hospitals. And the reason that I started KLEAN Treatment Center was that we knew that acute care psych, the average length of stay in an acute care psych hospital since the 80s has dropped from 90 days down to 4 to 8 days, maybe 12 if you're paranoid schizophrenic. And it used to be that in the 90 days that you used to go in the beginning, the first 30 days was just to baseline the client and find out what actually was wrong with them. But
Well, how do you baseline them in 30 days? They're still, I know.
Well, some it took longer, some it took less time. It depends on depends on the person.
I was probably still talking to myself the first 14 days, the first time I got sober from like meth and heroin and everything. When I first moved to Hollywood.
Sure. So that's a drug-induced psychosis. So you had a drug-induced psychosis from meth. That's
yeah, that's meth. This was 9 years ago. This is the first time. I went to Paston Recovery Center actually, and it was fine, but I did feel like I was completely labeled. And 2 years later, staying clean, I was like, I was not on any meds. I was fine. And I was like, why were they saying I had? And I heard you guys joking about borderline, by the way.
I think Craig was actually being serious about that.
Oh, I wasn't joking.
Yeah, I think he had a bad experience in a relationship. Probably. He still does.
You know what?
I still do.
Abusive marriage, actually, but really abusive, actually, and that threw me off too. But as far as borderline, the only thing I really know about it is there's a book called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me.
I got it.
And I thought, well, that's my abandonment issues. That's my daddy issues. That's not my mental issues. So, I mean, my main concern is that people are getting diagnosed and they're coming off drugs, and they're obviously crazy because this is like that guy who called in and the things he said he was on, which are battery acid and all the things that I once did. And, I mean, that's going to screw your mind up.
Yes.
And,
it can cause permanent damage.
Right.
It can cause permanent psychosis.
In my brain from a recent CAT scan. I cannot believe it.
Yeah. People, all these people that are doing drugs and they think that it's not going to affect them in a bad way. I mean, especially things like marijuana. People
no matter how many times you go to Whole Foods, it will affect you.
Yeah, I mean, people they're like, oh yeah, I won't eat gluten, but I'll smoke pot.
Right.
It's like,
and
are you out of your mind?
Canyon.
Like.
So, Brooke, we got to
I
run, Brooke.
I actually relate to that one.
Brooke,
yeah. I'll go get a green juice, but I'm going to, I
that's
hear
exactly right. You'll shoot in your arm and drink a green juice at the same time, and somehow they both cancel each other out. And
it sounds like you know me.
Yes, welcome to 2013 addiction.
Yeah, so it's pretty common, huh? I'm not original.
You're not yet. Brooke, listen, we really have to run.
Well, I thank you guys so much. that is definitely a concern because I have friends that are, in the 12 steps. I'm in the 12 steps, and
my one thing saying, not all treatment. People really don't know that not all treatment centers are the same, and I really encourage people to look around and read and talk to people that have been to them that are willing to talk about it and find out what the process they went through. And different treatment centers are right for different people. We're more medically based. We deal with a lot of dual diagnosis in West Hollywood. Our facility in Washington is much more spiritually based.
I want you to add comedy.
Yes, and comedy. And Brooke, thank you so much for
we have this show. This show's fun.
I just want to talk to you about something.
We got a comic on our show.
I'm dead serious.
I couldn't agree with you more. And just so you know that you and Andrew are on
By the way, in the big book, it says we are not a glum lot.
And it insists on us enjoying life, which is a very funny statement.
The joy is also not brought
That's
up.
actually why we started this radio show.
And I'm actually not kidding when I say that that's part of the spiritual
I just want to tell you something
that I'm talking about.
Yes, one of the things we do at the treatment center is we do this thing called sober fun.
Yeah.
Right. So every Saturday, it could be bowling, it could be a movie, it could be something. Where we try to teach people.
Oh, bowling ain't fun for me.
Well, if I lose, again, it's not all about you. But
you have to use your spirituality on that.
You got to pray.
I got to start praying right.
But here's the thing. One of the things we focus on is it's showing people how to live life. A lot of people, they get sober, they go to rehab, but it's like that scene from Shawshank Redemption, the walls become your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of people that are great in rehab. One of the cool things that we get to do because we're on Santa Monica Boulevard, essentially, is that we get to show them. They walk to meetings. We don't have that druggy buggy. And people could start living life while they're in treatment.
I want you to bring me in there, and I'm going to do my guided laugh-a-dation.
I'll tell you what.
And you watch what happens. Watch the transformation.
Craig, I'll tell you what. Anytime you want.
At the moment you're laughing, try it right now. You literally cannot be depressed. You cannot be depressed as you're laughing.
Unless you're psychotic.
They can't be on the same plane, even if you're laughing psychotically.
By the way, Craig, if you just tuned in, you are listening to Craig Shoemaker.
Yes,
you are listening to KLEAN Radio with Craig Shoemaker. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222.
I'm the Love Master on Twitter if you want to yell at me some more.
Are you really the Love Master on Twitter?
Yes.
How did you manage to get that?
Well, because I'm the Love Master for all these years.
You got it right at the beginning, I guess.
As your son is in the studio listening to this, yes.
Listen, the Love Master buys him his camp, anything that he wants. The Love Master.
Was this the sexual compulsion, or
that's where he came from? All right. I was diagnosed by Dr. Drew on that one, with a narcissistic disorder. That's who the Love Master is. How do you think he developed?
There you go.
It was from not getting ladies. I gave them what they wanted.
Let's go to Glenn. Welcome to welcome, Glenn from Portland. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Glenn.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you?
How you doing, Glenn?
It's funny that you should say we are not a glum lot. My sobriety birthday is January 23rd, 1999. And if you look in Daily Reflections on January 23rd, that's exactly what it says. We are not a glum lot.
Oh, that's cool.
And one of the things, and Glenn, just so you know, I mean, if everybody's listening to the show tonight, one of the really cool things is that we're sober people, we're laughing, we're debating, and we're talking, and I think that's a really important thing, Craig.
We're engaging our minds and our spirits.
Yes.
Wait till I start throwing down physically, then we'll get the body going. I think I can take both of them.
I got a gun.
Philly against Brooklyn. Come on, I got a gun.
You can definitely take me. So, Glenn, what can we do?
I don't work out. I have a gun.
Glenn, what can we do?
I'm either gonna stand behind the biggest guy there or the guy with the gun.
I'm standing behind both of them. Glenn, so
my dad and I have a meeting. My dad's sober 30 years, and
that's cool.
When we started this meeting, my dad and I sat down, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I think it would be a good idea if we had an open meeting for NA and A. I did pot once in 1979, and I ended up naked in my buddy's closet eating Nutter Butter. So I've never really done dope. I don't know what it's about. So we wanted a soft place for somebody to come to follow. It doesn't matter if you're an NA or an AA, and there are a few people that have some personality conflicts going on in their life, but I think
just a few.
You guys touched on a couple points that were very valid. I think one of them has to be willingness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to take a look at what's going on, and if you can, then maybe you need to find somebody who is willing to help you look at all that. That's the key thing, is making sure we can look at ourselves and not live like we used to.
Yeah, I mean, willingness is certainly a part. When that comes into the treatment process, I think is different for different people as well, though. Some people need willingness to get into treatment. Some people acquire willingness during treatment. And I think that the big thing is never to give up on people. If you can get them into treatment and they don't get willingness and they go back out, people should still stick with them and work with them until
my
something
father always
happens.
said, as long as the son is alive, there's a chance. And I can't, sometimes to me that's one of the greatest messages of the 12 steps is that, wherever there's sick and suffering, we reach out our hand.
Yeah.
Exactly. I read the promises. As a matter of fact, I incorporated that in our meeting. Before we close with the Lord's Prayer, I always have somebody. I pick a random person every meeting to read the promises.
That's great.
That's great, Glenn. Thank you for the call, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
One more quick thing, and then I'll be out of here. This is for the comic.
Okay.
Craig Shoemaker.
Craig Shoemaker, the comic. Now, for God's sakes.
This lady's sober like 52 years, and she goes up to heaven finally, and he says, how have you lived such a great life? You have no resentments at all? She said, nope, I have not one. He said, not one resentment? How did you do that? She said, I outlived all them bastards.
Glenn, thanks a lot.
I'm glad you directed that at the comic.
Yeah, right. That had to go
Craig,
to the comic.
I'm the only one that could.
You got a new writer.
Are you appearing in Portland at all?
What's that?
Are you appearing in Portland at
I
all?
wish I was. Please, I could just play a 12-step room there.
Yeah, right.
Every call you have is Oregon, for God's sake. They must be sick up there. I wish the sun would shine a little
Yeah,
more.
they need more sun up there.
Glenn, thanks for the call. We actually had Atlanta. You're appearing in Atlanta. Where are you appearing?
The Punchline in Atlanta. I'll be there in December. I'm all over there.
cool.
Just go
Yeah.
to CraigShoemaker.com. No umlauts, no mocker. Just CraigShoemaker.com. And I'll just.
How do you spell Shoemaker?
Like a shoe and a maker.
Okay.
You take your shoe to a maker. SHOEMAKER. And I have a podcast, and we talk a lot about obstacles in life as well. And even our celebrities, we talk about the pain that they go through. Dr. Drew was just on. We had Samuel L. Jackson, and
Who's dealt with crack addiction?
Yeah, CraigShoemakerShow.com. Yeah, we talk. Katie Seagal was just on, and we talk about how to manage through life in an alternative way that I believe, I'm not anti-prescription drugs, but I'm close to it. Because I just think that we're so bombarded because they have the billions to bombard us, and it becomes part of our consciousness.
I do think that the fact that they
what
allowed...
doesn't come part of our consciousness is the alternative, is the mind-body-spirit theory. You just don't see it anywhere. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about it now, and I get, knocked down really fast because it's not part of the agenda. But it really is. The agenda is already there. We already see the drugs that are available. We already see the loads of psychiatrists and doctors that are prescribing these things. But we don't have spiritual leaders in our country. Would you not agree with that? Where are
We
they?
have religious leaders
No,
who
spiritual.
claim to
I
be
did not say
spiritual.
religious. I said spiritual leaders. Where are they? Where is that alternative where people can work that fitness
But who's
program?
your idea of a spiritual leader?
A spirit. Who's my idea?
I mean, so we're talking about that we don't have. Obviously, you have somebody in mind from the past that was.
I have certain leaders that I go to.
No, but I'm
like
saying
a Wayne Dyer.
Right.
A Wayne Dyer, this guy, I love the way he lives, and he also had difficulties with addiction, but he dealt with it with a source, and I just believe in that because that's always with you. A pill is not always with you. Your doctor's not always with you. A sponsor's not always with you.
You're correct.
A spirit always is.
Right.
You can always get on your knees. You can always meditate. That option should be option one, in my opinion, or my experience.
But that's what Andrew was talking about. One of the most important things to do when you get somebody into treatment or you get somebody anywhere is to baseline them, is essentially to take them off everything and see what's cracking. Mm-hmm. And not enough people are doing that.
If you ran them, just think of this hypothetically. If you ran them through a fitness program, you get better abs. You have to.
Right.
If you do enough sit-ups, you're going to have better abs. Right?
Me and Andrew work out every day, and something has gone terribly wrong.
I work out once a year. Yeah. January 2nd when I join a new club. And that's the last
pay for it for another year.
Yeah, exactly. I work out so hard, I'm sore, I can't
Can you
even
hold that
reach
though?
my
Because we
car.
got a couple calls.
Yeah, let's take a couple calls.
Absolutely, yes.
Beth in Oregon, welcome to KLEAN Radio, Beth.
Hello.
Hi.
I was the one I actually called you last weekend at the very, very end of the show.
Okay.
It's a bit off tonight's topic, but I'm the one with
Don't
the
worry.
sister who's addicted to meth and heroin.
Right.
And
Oh, that's right. That's right. No.
yeah, I never got a chance to go to Al-Anon this week, but I will.
Okay.
But one of the things I really wanted to ask you is I've read about other states where you can go to the courts and prove that the
It's called a 5150 is what you're going to talk about.
Well, hold on, let her finish.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beth.
yeah, where you can just basically show that they can't take care of themselves and they could be forced into a rehab. But I don't think that's available in Oregon. But that's kind of where we think we need to go with this because she completely doesn't want to get help, but she's destroying all of our lives.
There is something that's called a conservatorship, and you have to get a series of doctors, and you have to file with the court, and it's a long, tedious process, and then it has to be repeated often, and it's expensive and very difficult to do, and that's why most people don't even know about it. And it's just is another issue that we have within the mental health community of trying to get people help, and yet that don't want to get help or resistant to help. And because of the freedoms that we have in America, there's a downside to it in that people that are ill are not necessarily seen as needing to be taken into care. They're allowed to be any way they want to be. And unfortunately now most of them end up in prisons. And if you look at what's happened since deinstitutionalization, there's been an inverse curve of the number of people that are mentally ill that were in institutions and mental health institutions that are now in prison. So unfortunately, the criminal justice system has largely become the mental health system.
Beth, I'm going to tell you what, listen, because we got to run again, but can you please give us a call back next week? But before you do, please go to an Al-Anon meeting this week.
Yeah, I plan to.
And that's what Craig is talking about too, is taking care of your spirit. And even if you go to just take care of yourself.
And talk about it in an Al-Anon meeting, because you'll probably find people that have dealt with conservatorship issues in Oregon and know attorneys that will probably do something on a sliding scale or work with you.
Okay. One thing, though, just real quick, is that I've been really trying to get my parents to kick her out of the house, and I've heard you guys talk before about how that's not a good idea.
No, we talk about that a lot, just so you know. We're running out of time, and we really don't want to give you the wrong information. But a lot of times when I'm talking about that, or Andrew's talking about that, is with teenagers especially, it's, you're going to kick a teenager out in the house. It's not a good idea.
There's better avenues, we believe, than tough love straight out.
Right. We believe in love tough, and which is really it's the scalpel of pain with the anesthetic of love. And Scott R., who's deceased, that was one of my favorite things he shared. And but Beth, we got to run. Okay.
Okay.
Please call us back next week.
Put them to work.
Put them to work.
That's what
exactly.
I say. That's what I have my kids do. I got my kid here with me, 9 years old. He's my tour manager.
Right.
He ain't staying in that house for free.
I just want to
He's got a major sugar addiction, I want to tell you.
Let's just get one more
It's
call.
not easy
in.
to deal with.
Tim in
You
Oregon,
have a
welcome
major
to
sugar
KLEAN Radio,
addiction.
Tim.
I'll talk to you about it in a minute.
Hi there.
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Hi. Good, thanks. Good to hear your voices.
Great. How you doing?
And the comic.
I'm good, thank you. I brought up you guys were bringing up the topic of diagnosis a while back.
Absolutely.
In the program. And I wanted to just kind of catch your take on, every few years the DSM changes. And this last year it went from the DSM-4 that we'd been using for a long time.
DSM-4R to DSM-5, yeah.
Right. And there's always a kerfuffle. There's lots of controversy about it. What kind of process is it? Is it really good science? Is it really good research? Is it half backslapping and politics and everything? So I just kind of wanted your take on it.
My take on it is that it serves two purposes. And the main one that it was created for was actually to create classifications of illnesses for billing and for doctors to be able to have a way to bill back through the ICD-9. So you could actually label people with a diagnosis, and then you could bill for it with insurance. The other thing that it was created for was actually to try and create a common dialogue so that researchers could classify different types of mental disorders and then be able to conduct research on them. And that's where it does get very political. And one thing that we do know is that we know very, very little still. We only know about 1% about how the brain works. So, we're just at the beginning of a revolution in understanding mental health, mental illness, and how the brain works. And it's going to be an exciting time, I think, in the future.
And
I hope I boosted it up 2%.
And Tim, thanks for the call, by the way.
Alternative to what you already.
Craig, you're going to be appearing.
Your limited thinking of 1%.
I'm going to have you come down.
I'm limited 1%. Your horizons. Okay.
Hey, we're the 1%ers, man. Be careful.
From all the drugs I did, I don't have much left. But my little percentage I do have left.
I think you gave us 2 extra points.
My experience is life can be absolutely infinite and beautiful. If you are self-responsible and accountable and get away from the finger pointing of it happened because my mother did this and all of that. Once I transcended that, that's when life got beautiful. That's my experience.
It's choosing to live,
And I'll tell you what, I have the most amazing life today.
That's great.
Honest to God. And it all started, though, from stopping the stuff from the neck up.
Right.
That's when it started. And then the path began to be beautiful, and I have so much more of an understanding of it. And now my life is beautiful. I mean, I can't say enough about it.
Craig, we're running out of time.
I got it.
I'd like your message of hope, though.
I got my little hope message.
Let's hear your plugs. What do you got for us?
I have a plug of hope.
A plug of hope.
We don't
want to go there.
Craig's actually going to be performing at the John Lovitz Comedy Club in Universal Studio the 26th. November 20th.
Only one night. I'll be doing a lot of new material. Come and see it. None of which I did here today.
I'm going to tell you what, Craig.
I will never repeat this.
Craig, I'm going to tell you what.
They said you're doing clean radio. I didn't do my little,
Craig,
my little stinky poo.
I'm going to tell you what. We have an amazing alumni. I'm going to book some tickets for them for some of your shows.
Great.
But we're going to have
an audience.
We're going to have some of them with their meds and some of them not. And we're going to see.
Have them.
Can we get a discount from your tour manager here?
My little 9-year-old doesn't know anything about $1.
And actually, we're going to do that because I think you're one of the funniest guys. You're appearing at JR's Comedy Club November 22nd to the 23rd.
It's in Valencia, yes.
And you're all over.
Just
you're
go to
going to be at Atlanta.
CraigShoemaker.com.
Go to CraigShoemaker.com.
Listen to the podcast. And trust me, if you go and laugh, for those, I do a 90-minute show. For that 90 minutes, whatever is bothering you is not going to be bothering you.
I'll tell you what,
the
next time we do an intake, we're going to take 2 clients. We're going to get one to your show and one to rehab. We're going to sort of that would be a great reality.
And then you got to take
show.
the client home with you, by the way.
I'd like to thank everybody out there. We had amazing calls tonight. I want to thank Craig Shoemaker. You will be back on, hopefully, if you say yes. I'm asking right away.
I got more to say.
And the discussion continues at KLEANradio.com. Next time.
Hey, thanks to our listeners.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits.